Advice 1. Should people prepare before giving advice? Yes, definitely. I think people should understand the situation properly before giving advice because what works for one person may not work for someone else. For example, if a friend asks for career advice, it's important to know about their skills, personality, and long-term goals first. Otherwise, even well-intentioned advice could end up confusing them or leading them in the wrong direction. Spending a few minutes asking questions can make the advice much more useful. 2. Is it good to ask advice from strangers online? It can be helpful, but I wouldn't rely on it too much. The biggest advantage is that strangers can offer different perspectives because they don't know you personally and may be more objective. For instance, if someone asks for travel tips or recommendations for a laptop, online communities often provide practical advice based on real experience. However, when it comes to important decisions like relationships or careers, strangers don't fully understand your situation, so their advice should be taken with a pinch of salt. 3. What are the personalities of people whose job is to give advice to others? I think the most important quality is being a good listener. People like teachers, counsellors, or consultants need to understand someone's problems before suggesting a solution. If they interrupt people or make assumptions too quickly, their advice is unlikely to solve the real issue. That's why many successful advisors spend more time asking questions than giving answers. 4. What are the problems if you ask too many people for advice? The biggest problem is that you may become even more confused. Different people have different experiences and values, so they often give completely opposite suggestions. For example, one person might encourage you to take risks, while another tells you to play it safe. If you try to satisfy everyone, you may end up making no decision at all. That's why it's usually better to listen to a few trustworthy people instead of asking everyone around you. 5. Why do some people think it is better to ask for advice from friends than from parents? I think it's because friends are often going through similar experiences. Since they're usually around the same age, they understand the challenges you're facing and can give advice that's more relevant. Let's say, if a university student is worried about choosing a major or dealing with exam stress, their classmates may have faced exactly the same problem. Parents, on the other hand, sometimes see things from a different generation, so their suggestions may not always fit today's situation. 6. When would old people ask young people for advice? I think older people often ask young people for advice when it comes to technology. Technology changes so quickly that younger generations usually learn new apps and devices much faster. For instance, many grandparents ask their grandchildren how to use online banking, social media, or AI tools. Instead of spending hours reading instructions, they can simply ask a young family member and solve the problem in a few minutes.
Encouragement. 1. Should children do everything their parents ask them to do? Not always. I think children should learn to think independently instead of simply following every instruction. As they grow older, they'll eventually have to make their own decisions. So it's important to develop critical thinking from an early age. Take teenagers as an example. If they disagree with their parents about choosing a university major, discussing their reasons calmly is often more beneficial than obeying without question. 2. How can employers encourage their staff? I think the best way is to recognize their employees' efforts. People tend to work harder when they feel that their contributions are valued. It doesn't always have to be a pay rise either. Even something simple like praising an employee during a team meeting or giving them an award for outstanding performance can make them feel appreciated and motivate them to keep doing their best. 3. How can leaders encourage their employees? In my opinion, leaders should set a good example. Employees are usually more motivated when they see their managers working hard and staying committed themselves. For instance, if a team leader is willing to stay late to help solve a problem instead of leaving everything to the staff, the whole team is more likely to stay positive and put in extra effort as well. 4. When should parents encourage their children? I think parents should encourage their children whenever they face difficulties. Children can easily lose confidence after making mistakes, so that's when emotional support matters the most. Imagine a child who performs badly in an exam. Instead of criticizing them, parents can remind them that everyone fails sometimes and encourage them to work harder next time. That kind of support helps children become more resilient. 5. What kind of encouragement should parents give? I believe parents should focus on encouraging effort rather than results. This teaches children that success comes from hard work instead of natural ability. A good example would be when a child spends weeks preparing for a competition but doesn't win. Rather than focusing on the final outcome, parents could praise their determination and persistence, which motivates the child to keep improving. 6. Do you think some people are better than others at persuading? Yes, definitely. I think good communicators are naturally more persuasive because they know how to present their ideas clearly and understand what other people care about. You can see this in salespeople, for example. Instead of simply listing a product's features, they explain how it can solve the customer's specific problem, which makes people much more willing to accept their suggestions.
Punctuality. 1. Is it good to arrive early in any situation? Not necessarily. I think arriving early is important for formal occasions such as job interviews, exams, or business meetings because it shows professionalism and helps avoid unexpected delays. However, in social situations, arriving too early isn't always appropriate. For example, if you visit someone before they're ready to receive guests, it could make both sides feel uncomfortable. So, whether arriving early is a good idea really depends on the context. 2. Do you know anyone who likes to get up early? Yes. My father has always been an early riser because he believes it helps him start the day in a more productive way. He usually wakes up at around 5 in the morning, goes for a walk and reads the news before going to work. He says that having a peaceful morning allows him to organize his thoughts and feel less rushed throughout the day. 3. Why do people get up early? I think the main reason is to have a more productive day. Getting up early gives people extra time to exercise, prepare for work, or finish important tasks before they get interrupted. For instance, many students prefer studying early in the morning because it's much quieter, which makes it easier for them to concentrate. 4. What kinds of occasions need people to arrive early? I think job interviews are one of the most important occasions. Arriving early gives people enough time to calm their nerves and make a good first impression. Let's say someone gets to the interview venue 15 or 20 minutes in advance. They can check the location, review their notes, and avoid the stress of rushing in at the last minute. 5. Why do some people like to stay up late? I think many people stay up late because it's the only time they can truly relax. During the day, they're often busy with work, school, or family responsibilities, so late at night is when they finally have some time for themselves. For example, some people enjoy watching films, reading books, or playing games after everyone else has gone to bed because there are fewer distractions.